You know, I've been looking for the best opportunity to do this, and it's finally come. I'm gonna do this review in this hat. Lawless. This film is directed by John Hillcoat, and it has a hell of a cast. It stars one of the biggest rising stars of the time right now, Tom Hardy, Jessica Chastain, Shia LaBeouf, Guy Pearce, Gary Oldman, the dude from Chronicle, Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and Jason Clarke. The story takes place essentially during the Prohibition Era, and for all you history illiterates out there, the Prohibition Era was when America basically banned the use of alcohol, and all over the country people would make their own alcohol, which they tended to call moonshine, and they sold it for a profit. And in this movie, these three brothers, Jason Clarke, Tom Hardy, and Shia LaBeouf, is it Boof? I don't know. Well, they're selling the alcohol, and they've been doing this for a little while now. They're used to doing their thing, but here comes Guy Pearce and a group of crazy mobsters from Chicago, the city where some crazy mob stuff goes down, and they want to interfere with Tom Hardy's business, with these brothers' moonshine business, and it causes some really deadly, bloody, violent clashes. I really wanted this summer to end on a high note, and it didn't end on the high note that I expected and anticipated, but it ended pretty well. Let me get into the aspects of this film that I absolutely loved and adored. First of all, the first thing I have to say is that the acting all around was top notch. Some of the best acting I've seen in movies all year. First of all, Tom Hardy. He really is rising to be one of the greatest actors of this current decade. I mean, he pulled off a great performance. I expected Jessica Chastain and Gary Oldman to be good in this film, and they were good, so I don't really have to say anything about them. For all you perverts out there, those of you who know who Jessica Chastain is, she's one of the best working actresses in the industry right now. She shows off her, weapons. So if that doesn't get you in the theater, I don't know what will. Who I was really impressed with, however, though, was Shia LaBeouf. I mean, he's been in a couple legitimately serious films, and I forgot the names of them, but he's been in a few capable movies, and he's shown that he has range. And in this movie, this is the first movie in a while where he really shows his range. I swear to God, I'm calling it now, within the next 10 years, Shia LaBeouf will have an Oscar nomination, or even a win. It's basically a coming-of-age story for Shia LaBeouf's character. Everybody on YouTube has been talking about his character, but I hate to put you through this too, but I had to talk about him. Guy Pearce had one of the best performances of the year so far. He was so damn intimidating and scary. Every time he was on screen, I shat bricks. You could just see it in his eyes, just how sick of a person he is, and he's willing to go extremely far to get what he wants, but he's extremely subtle and subdued. But when he breaks out and just roars like a frickin' lion, he is crazy. I also really dug the directing by John Hillcoat and the cinematography. John Hillcoat, I haven't seen much of his films, but he really knows how to immerse people in the acting, the music, the sets, especially the sets. You really feel like you were in this time period. Now let's get into stuff that wasn't so good. Slow pace doesn't have to be a bad thing, and it wasn't necessarily a bad thing that much in this film, but a lot of scenes in this film, in the second act, just weren't as engaging as I wanted them to be, and I did feel myself cringing at points, just move on to the next scene, please. The progression of the story through the three respective acts is like a roller coaster. It goes up, it goes down, it goes in twirls, and it's not always a good thing, and this movie is kind of inconsistent with the way it's paced. But then comes the third act, which was very intense and full of emotion and drama, and I loved it. The third act and the last big shootout sequence made up for a lot of the boringness that was the middle of this film. There were a couple events that occurred in this film that were extremely implausible, and this was based on a true story. Really, it really was. It wasn't just Hollywood BS. And there's one aspect of implausibility that happens at the end of this movie, and it just made my jaw drop, really? Like, in real life, that would not happen. Overall, I thought Lawless was a really good movie. It had fantastic acting and great immersiveness with the sets and the visuals, but it was a bit boring and extremely slow at points, so that brings the movie down for me, and also the implausibility. So, after all that I just said, I'm gonna give Lawless 3.5 out of 5 bottles of the finest moonshine you could find. I really feel like this is one of those movies that would benefit from a second viewing because movies like this on the first go tend to be sometimes like the slow paced experiences, but on a second time, even after knowing everything, it might be a better experience. If I were you, I wouldn't rush out to see this, but I would definitely recommend watching this when it comes out on DVD because it might have a spot in the Oscars somewhere, and if you watch the Oscars, I think it's necessary that you watch this movie. This movie's been out since Wednesday, so if you've seen Lawless, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Also, like and subscribe to this channel, and you can check out my Twitter and Facebook accounts on my channel, which you can get above too. I'm John from Mothman Jones Reviews, and as a great man once said, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. So, as I depart, I hope you have a good day, a good night, a good evening, and may God be with you as you embark.